The proper authorities. "What do you think Balthasar will do to Aisling?" Remy asked, clutching Gage tight in her arms as they rested beside a pond. The cat was glaring at the water suspiciously, sometimes gently taking her hand in his teeth and trying to drag her away. Remy just picked him back up and wrapped her arms around him until he calmed down. Nightingale had removed her shoes and socks and was up to just past her knees in the pond. "Depends on how the hunt goes, I guess. He won't be happy we're gone." Rook sat on a large rock just beside the pond, a pile of flat stones beside him. Occasionally he would grab one and skip it across the water. "It's open to interpretation. Murder means the gallows, but—" "But Aisling didn't mean to kill anyone," Nightingale frowned. "Jophiel killed the informant after all." "Right." Remy reached down, patting Gage. The cat tilted his head, butting her hand. She took the cue and scratched behind his ears. "It was probably for the best. I don't think my dad really did most of what Aisling said, but Grace wanted to lock us up for inconveniencing her." Zeke appeared behind Remy, setting something heavy on her lap in front of Gage. It was a sub sandwich, wrapped in paper and thickly stuffed with meat and veggies. "If prison is what you get for sneaking out," he continued, "I don't think Grace would have considered the whole accident excuse." "Well, it's not up to her now," Nightingale said. She splashed her way to the shore, extending an expectant hand to Zeke. He unwrapped her sandwich before passing it to her. She took a few huge bites, trailing bits of veggies into the pond. A dozen little fish swam up around her ankles, picking off the scraps, and Gage watched curiously as their forms moved underneath the water's surface. "Balthazar will see whatever we went to so that real justice would be served," Nightingale said with a full mouth. Nightingale then put a hand on her hip and tried to look regal with a huge frown. "And he'll be like, 'You guys are so great. I've changed my mind about the demiurge. You're all invited. Also, here's a giant sack of money.'" "Good Balthazar impression," Rook called, saluting with a sandwich of his own. "But don't you think he'll wonder where you got infected with the Malama in the first place?" Nightingale scrambled out of the water with a yelp. "That's not food," Nightingale said, her tail flicking out of the water. Some fish were biting at her as she scrambled out of the pond, away from the glittering fish that seemed to be growing more hostile as more bits of her sandwich began falling into the pond. She coughed, dropping onto a rock beside the water. "Anyways, in Nightingale Land, Balthasar's just so overwhelmed with our heroics that he forgets to ask." Remy started kicking a little at the sand on the edge of the pond, raining dirt down on the pack of grumpy fish. "Oh, of course. Forgive me," Rook bowed exaggeratedly. "Remy, do we need to, buy cat food or something?" Near the pond's edge, Gage looked like he was about ready to pounce on the unsuspecting fish. "Nah." Remy picked another big piece of meat out of the sandwich, lowering it down to Gage, but the cat seemed too involved in watching the fish to notice. "If we don't have anything he likes, he can probably catch enough food for himself." "That little guy can hunt?" Zeke sounded disbelieving. "You think that's safe?" "As safe as it was for us to go out hunting a murderer who can blow people up," Remy answered. "And we did okay." With that, Gage jumped partway into the water viciously, snatching a small fish out of the pond.